Joining us right now is Ram Madhav, who's the president of the India Foundation. He's also been someone who's very closely associated with Jammu and Kashmir, being the in charge of the BJP. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Mr. Ram Madhav. Let me begin by asking you, first, India's China disengagement that's being seen in Ladakh's Depsang, Dempchok. We're in the process where it's either been completed or it's likely to have been completed. How do you see the progress in that respect, which was in action for the last 4 years, several dozen rounds of talks at both the military as well as diplomatic levels that we've seen take place?
It is significant for several reasons. Firstly, remember, generally, the Chinese side has no such record of backtracking from their claims in any region, not just about India-China border dispute I'm talking. Generally, you don't see the Chinese side easily stepping back from whatever claims they have been making, they have made in the past. So in that sense, this is a very significant achievement wherein we have successfully compelled them to go back to the pre-2020 positions or pre-2020 February positions. And from that perspective, it's a very important and significant thing. But a very equally important, significant thing is the India's stand in the last 3-4 years. See, border transgressions have not been new for us from the Chinese side. They have been happening for last 3-4 decades. But in the last 10 years, India changed its tactic. The change in India's tactic is what we have to keep in mind, because that is what has yielded us this very important result, very significant result. And that is, while we proactively engaged with the Chinese side diplomatically, we took a very strong ground posturing. So, unlike in the past, where we used to resort to diplomatic, maneuvers, diplomatic efforts to resolve such standoffs, this time, together with diplomacy, we took a very strong ground posturing. That has helped in, China finally reconsidering its position and finally agreeing to dismantle the structures that they have constructed in the disputed territory. And today, both sides have agreed to patrol the region. There exists a debate, dispute. Nobody denies that. But whatever unilateral claims that have been made by Chinese side, they had to rescind. They have to go back. I think it's very significant.
Right. Right. Also, we had seen, recently during the BRICS summit on the sideline, there were bilateral meetings that were held, of course, with Chinese President Xi Jinping. We had seen at that point of time over here domestically, the Congress raising concerns over Modi government's announcement of agreement with China on patrolling arrangements along the NAC. And this is what Congress General Secretary Communication Jairam Ramesh stated. I'm quoting him. He says, this agreement legitimized China's aggression, hindering a timely resolution of the LAC standoff, and the government's approach to the crisis can be summed up as DDLJ: deny, distract, lie, and justify. How do you respond to the stance that has been taken by the Congress party?
That is what they have been doing. They had been doing through 50s and 60s. Denial, all sorts of lies that were being peddled. This was the history of the way first government of India, led by Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, had behaved. That resulted in real loss of face for India in 1962. Subsequently also, from 67 onwards, there were any number of occasions. I have studied that whole history of India-China relations pretty deeply. I can tell you there were any number of occasions when the then governments had actually acted in a manner that was not in our interest. But since it's an international relations issue, it's an issue of bilateral relations with our neighboring country, I don't indulge in simple accusations or mudslinging type of things. But I can tell you that what they are complaining or what they are criticizing today is what has been the record of Congress party when it was in power. On the contrary, here is a government which has, for the first time, forced China to dismantle the structures it has constructed. It never happened in the last 60, 70 years of our history. Again, I'm doing it only to set the record straight, not as chest thumping. Here what is required is a kind of a national consensus. There can be genuine questions that Congress party wants to raise. They can raise when Parliament meets. But to now say that some India's territory is being handed over to China and all that, it is utter lies. And if there was any one government that had indulged in Bhudan Karyakram, you know what is Bhudan? Giving away our lands to others. It was the Congress. It had done it with respect to China. It had done it with respect to Sri Lanka. It had done it with respect to Bangladesh. There were any number of instances in last 5 decades or 6 decades, 7 decades when Congress party had indulged in Bhudan Karyakram of our territory, handing over it on a platter to neighbors. Today, they have no right to criticize this government's very bold, courageous action, which has really compelled the Chinese to backtrack.
Right. Also, sir, if I can shift focus now to Jammu and Kashmir, in the recently concluded state elections, National Conference has emerged as the single largest party with 42 seats out of 90, clinching a majority with its allies, the Congress, the CPM as well. The BJP finished as the second largest party, bagging 29 seats, all from the Jammu region. How do you see the result in terms of the democratic revival in the Kashmir Valley?
No, firstly, it was a very big achievement for Government of India, conducting very transparent, peaceful elections. Remember, not a single complaint about the elections per se from that state. Although you know that when about Haryana also there were a galore of complaints, right or wrong. I'm not saying those complaints are right. But here is an election in a very sensitive state, which was conducted in such an efficient, transparent and peaceful manner. First of all, we must congratulate the Election Commission of India and also the Government of India for that. Yes, the result, again, as on the expected lines, is a very divided result. The Valley stood behind NC solidly, and Jammu largely stood behind the BJP. The very nature of mandate is such that the government that is formed, although it has a couple of people, one independent and one MLA from the hill region of Jammu as participants in the government, it is largely a Kashmir-centric government. I'm not saying it in the sense of any Kashmir-Jammu divide. But there is an electoral mandate, a mandate-related reality. That reality is reflecting in this formation of the government. Nevertheless, we congratulate NC for securing a mandate in the valley. Although, in terms of seats, they have 42 seats and BJP had 29 seats. But in terms of vote share, BJP secured 26% of the popular vote, highest in history. And NC could only secure around 23.5% popular vote. So, firstly, we congratulate NC for succeeding to secure seats and then support of independence and forming the government today. But they must remember that this mandate, as the Chief Minister repeatedly says, that it is a mandate against Delhi. That's what he propagates. It's definitely not against Delhi. If it is anything, it is pro-Delhi because 26% people in the state have voted for BJP. Only 23% have voted for them. So this mandate is a fractured mandate. Valley went one direction, Jammu went one direction, but one should not read anything wrongly from this mandate. This mandate, if there is anything, a message in it, the NC government should try to take everybody along.
Yeah, the response of the National Conference, so we made a similar comment of Kashmir-centric government in the past, is that they say that this is a tried and tested formula of BJP to quote-unquote create divisions by othering people and communities at play once again. How do you respond to this reaction coming from the NC?
Oh, I have already responded because, when the Chief Minister sitting in Srinagar says that it is a mandate against Delhi, that's not a dividing statement. When the entire Jammu voted for BJP, how is it against Delhi? I mean, when you say that it is a uniting statement, when we point out that your mandate is only limited to Kashmir, you say it is a dividing statement. There is only one party which has consistently been denying Jammu its rights. It has been the NC. It has been they who are doing it. Now, I will give you a hypothetical situation. Imagine BJP has 35, 40 seats and all seats come from Jammu, and we get the support of a couple of independents in Kashmir and form the government. What would NC have said it? It's a Jammu government. Because that is the electoral reality, mandate reality. Similar situation arose in 2015. Then, of course, Mufti Muhammad Saeed decided that no, this government should have both Jammu and Kashmir. Then there was a situation where BJP and PDP came together to form the government. It's not about dividing the state that I am saying this. I am only responding to the statement of Chief Minister, who has been repeatedly saying Kashmiris have rejected Delhi. Is the state only Kashmiris? Jammu is not part of the state. Then what CM is saying is also equally divisive.
Right, right.
Remember, it's an electoral reality that we are stating.
Right. Do you also see it as very significant that one of the things that, it's not entirely gone unnoticed, but the fact is that we've not had such kind of participation and voter turnouts in Jammu and Kashmir in any of the recent elections in the past several decades. It's been significantly higher. And also the fact that while in by-elections we've seen, all sorts of violence break out, it was largely peaceful in the conduct of Jammu and Kashmir elections, despite the fact that there were several attempts made in the Jammu region in the run-up to those polls. Do you see that being something very significant as well, and a big message in terms of what all the centre has done, including abrogation of Article 370 in recent days?
Of course, the recently concluded parliament elections, followed by the recent assembly elections. In both these elections, the state witnessed enthusiastic participation from all sections of the society in Jammu and Kashmir, all sections. Why I'm emphasizing on that word, all sections, was just before the parliament elections, the chairman of the Hurriyat Conference, Mirwais Umar Farooq, issued a statement. Remember, Hurriyat Conference, right from 1990 onwards, consistently boycotted elections in the state, whether it was state elections, it was central election, all elections they used to boycott, rejecting Indian democracy as a flawed democracy. They used to reject these elections. But just before the parliament election, Umar Farooq, Mirwais issued a statement saying that boycotts have no meaning. We want people to go and participate in the elections. Very significant shift from somebody who was boycotting elections. Secondly, just before this round of assembly election, another big group which always opposed elections in the state, in fact, always opposed Jammu Kashmir's integration with India in 1947-48, the Jamaat-e-Islami came out very openly and said Indian elections proved to be transparent elections, honest elections, no hanky-panky happens in this. That's why we also support elections here. And remember, Jamaat-e-Islami not only supported elections, some of their candidates contested, in fact, 11 of their candidates contested in the election in assembly. What you are saying is very true. In that sense, it's a very inclusive election, very significant election in the sense that every section of the society today came to recognize India's democracy and its strengths, and they all are participating in the election. A big message to the entire world, and of course to our great neighbor.
Right. So may I also bring you to the question that has been spoken about since the Lok Sabha elections a lot, and that is about the relationship between the RSS and the BJP. There was a lot of talk of the RSS and BJP not being on the same page, of certain disagreements relating to various issues, administrative, so on and so forth. With the recently concluded Haryana elections, do you think that perception at least should be laid to rest? And is there really an issue that exists between the BJP and the RSS, as has been very widely reported, speculated, so on and so forth?
This whole issue of RSS-BJP relations is mostly a fodder for all of you from time to time. You can get good, airtime to spend on that issue, but I tell you, I am standing in front of you. The very fact that I have been sent back into the BJP by RSS itself is a proof that no such bad blood or no any dispute exists between the two. Two independent, separate entities sharing same ideological vision, but two separate entities will have issues between them, but they are not disputes. They will be discussed. Then there is an issue that BJP wants to take up with RSS. It will take up with RSS. When RSS wants to take up issues with BJP, it takes up. Other than that, there is no such thing called any big dispute and all. Remember, when elections come, RSS plays a very constructive role. Its role is limited to educating voters about the real issues that they should focus on. What are the real issues in a given state or a given region? And they should go and use their right properly. I mean, they should go and vote. They should not sit at home because they are not happy with governments or unhappy about some issues. So that is the role that RSS plays. RSS has played that role in every election. And I think neither Haryana nor Jammu Kashmir is any different as far as RSS role in election at the time of elections is concerned.
Right. So, recently seen Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, who has said, and he has equated Jamaat-e-Islami with the RSS. He's saying that Jamaat-e-Islami is a Muslim replication of the RSS. How would you respond to Mr. Vijayan?
No, that is just his politics in Kerala. I tell you, there is a political tussle between him and Congress UPA in that state. Because of that, because if tomorrow Jamaat-e-Islami becomes friends with Mr. Pinarayi Vijayan, his statement will change. He will say, for him, Jamaat will become suddenly a very great organization and RSS will remain what it is. So that is purely a political statement. There is no relation, no comparison between the two organizations. RSS is committed to a nation-first ideology. Absolutely meaningless, comparison that Mr. Vijayan makes. But as I said, it's a very political statement. It suits him politically in Kerala. Those who know Kerala politics understand why such statements are made by leaders from time to time.
Right. So, one of the other very important issues, nationally speaking, is, of course, the central government is expected to embark upon the census, something that has been delayed due to various reasons over the past few years. But one of the things coming out of that is the delimitation, which is expected to take place by 2028. Now, at least two chief ministers in the south of India, M.K. Stalin and Chandrababu Naidu, have highlighted the importance of increasing the number of children, particularly in the context of South India, which they say South Indian states statistically have been more successful in controlling the population growth compared to North India. And there is a growing concern that perhaps these states might be penalized for their effective population control efforts, as their share of Lok Sabha seats could decrease as a result. Do you see this as a valid concern?
No, as a concern, it is undoubtedly a valid concern, but why are they putting the cart before the horse? Who declared, who told them that census would be so in such a manner and then delimitation would be in such a manner? When those exercises begin, I'm sure the views of all these concerned parties, including the BJP's NDA allies as well as others, all of them will be taken seriously, taken into account, and a proper policy will be developed. The government has not announced anything about census, not announced anything about delimitation. Why are we, already, suspecting that something wrong is going to happen? I'm sure all genuine concerns will be taken into account.
Right. So my last question to you, this is in context of course, the Waqf Amendment Bill. The JPC has been seized of the matter. There are discussions, all sorts of agreements, disagreements that we seem to be happening as far as those meetings are concerned. But in Karnataka, there is a controversy as per certain reports where over 1,200 acres of land in Honavada were marked as Waqf property while only 11 acres belong to it. And while the Congress government had, announced at a press conference a decision to cancel the mutation, officials have been held accountable, they say, who have been responsible for it. There's video also that's come out of the Minority and Waqf Minister saying that this has to be done in a month in terms of the Waqf Adalat that was set up over there. How do you see this really, and does this entire episode somewhere highlight the need for reform of this very important Waqf area?
This Waqf bill certainly needs major reform. This has been the practice in many states. You will have, in many cities, you will come across places like, Eidgah Maidan. There's a big Maidan. It's a public place. There's an Eidgah. Eidgah has a little amount of space around it. But suddenly it is declared that the entire Maidan is Eidgah Maidan, which is actually facts-wise also, it's not, there is no documental evidence, nothing. So many such issues exist in this. Nobody is against genuine Waqf property. But in the name of Waqf, one cannot go on claiming anything and everything. and say that you should not ask us for any documentary evidence and all that. So I'm sure the JPC is seized of the matter. They are conducting consultations and talking to different groups and all. It's a matter before the parliament, so I don't want to comment more on it because there are certain privileges that JPC enjoys. But nevertheless, I think that what government is trying to do is to streamline this very big question of Waqf and its properties.
Right.
It is just trying to streamline it. It's not against any community per se, or nor against any genuine rights over property that Waqf boards in different states enjoy. It's just basically to ensure that no illegitimate claims are entertained in the name of Waqf property, etc.
Mr. Ram Madhav, I'd like to thank you so much for joining us and explaining and breaking down several of these very complex issues. Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.